Americans for Prosperity of New Jersey is led by State Director Steve Lonegan, a former three-term mayor of Bogota and two-time New Jersey gubernatorial candidate. Steve is also the voice of the Taxpayer Minute radio spots, a project of AFP New Jersey, which educates citizens about big government threats, waste, and abuse. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good, sir. No, it's just
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys. Fellow Tea Party patriots, fellow Americans. Great day. Glad you're here, not down on Wall Street. You know, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, amongst them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, when Thomas Jefferson wrote those profound opening words to our Declaration of Independence, he wrote what many of us believe to be the most important words ever written in the English language. Because with them, him and the founders launched the freest and most prosperous nation the world had ever seen. But in those words was contained a revolution, because it was the first time in the history of all mankind that any nation stated that each and every individual is endowed by these rights. You see, around the world, every king, every queen, every ruler, every king holding up that scepter, every Asian emperor holding that orb, believed that God gave them our rights, and that they, as the sovereigns, would hand those rights out to the people. How we would live, how we would be taxed, who we would marry, whether we would live or die, was determined by then. And this revolutionary concept that God gave us each those rights, endowed us with those rights, shook them to their very core, and they laughed. They said, who are these brash Americans to think that they could possibly govern themselves? They could never survive. Well, they were wrong, because those great words launched the freest, most prosperous nation in the world, and more freedom and prosperity rolled across this nation from sea to shining steel like a thunderstorm across the prairie, elevating America to the most freest and prosperous nation the world has ever seen. They were wrong, and we're going to keep them wrong. You know, but the battle has never ended. I'd like to roll a few years forward to the year 1814, and I'd like you to join me in using your imagination. Imagine this, it's September 1814, and you're up here in Rockland County in New Jersey, and you've gathered on your buckboard wagon, and you're heading down to Baltimore to visit with relatives and friends. And as you travel in the couple of weeks that it took to get down there, over the rough roads and the dirt paths of New Jersey, through New York, down into Delaware and into Maryland to Baltimore, as you get into Delaware, you start seeing people on the side of the road hurrying in the same direction you are. Along the sides of the road, store owners are shutting up their shops, shuttering their shops, putting their goods onto the backs of horses on their backs. Young women are packing their bags. Farmers are throwing down their plows and dashing across the fields, all heading in the same direction. And you stop to ask what's happening, and you learn that the British Army and the British Navy are advancing on Fort McHenry. They are advancing on Baltimore. You learn to your shock that the powerful British Army, the most powerful army in the world, the most powerful Navy in the world, has taken Washington, D.C. Abigail Adams has had to escape the city with George Washington's portrait, the only thing left of the White House, and they are now advancing on Baltimore. It is September 17th, September 15th, 1814, and there is no American army. We have no trained army. The British are the most powerful, well-equipped, well-trained military on the planet Earth, but we're fighting back against them with young men and young women who have trained as marksmen in the back hills of Maryland and the hills of Delaware, maybe shooting at squirrels, with their own personally owned weapons, their own muskets, their own ammunition, their own gunpowder. They're fighting back against this powerful British Army and Navy. They're shooting from behind trees, from behind walls. Young girls are wrapping Band-Aids, and above this Fort McHenry, the last stand in the assault of the British against us on our own soil, is flying this enormous flag, about a 40-foot flag that had been sewn on the floor of one Mary Pickett in the city of Baltimore. And as this battle rages, this unwinnable battle rages, there's a young man held hostage in a truce ship out in Baltimore by the British, and he's peering through this porthole and he's watching this battle raging through the night. And in his heart he knows we cannot possibly win, but through the rockets, red glare, the bombs bursting air, that flag continues to fly all through the night. And to his shock, the next day, the British Navy weighs anchor. They've lost. They've lost to the undernourished, under-equipped, under-trained Americans who fought so hard to preserve this nation. And as those ships pull out of harbor, young Francis Scott Key comes up onto the deck of the ship, pulls out his paper, and writes that great song, The Star-Spangled Banner. The birth of our nation stayed intact. And we fought back against the powerful odds. We're seeing that, folks, in a great way today. And this event today is to re-garnish that American spirit against our enemies. And they are out there. You know, about 3 years ago, we're celebrating right now the 3rd anniversary of the largest masquerade ballroom in the masquerade ball in American history, the 2008 Democrat Convention, which was probably the largest exposition of political cross-dressing in American history, where a bunch of people claiming to be conservatives who are going to bring hope and change to America, to cut your taxes, to bring back the middle class, lied to you. That hasn't happened. It's not happening at all. And in fact, they're continuing to advance a radical agenda. And they came at it, if you go back to the history of the Tea Party, what launched the Tea Party movement? It was an awakening of Americans coming down from their farms, from their villages, from their shops to stand up for America once again, like we have always done. But there's a bigger force out there, folks. There's an enormous force out there, counter to those core principles of being endowed by our Creator. And it's one conspired by diplomats from around the world, and it comes in the form of what you've called and what we've learned to know as Agenda 21. A concept, a United Nations concept, that runs contrary to the very core principles of our Constitution, that reiterates those sovereigns and those kings who said, who are these brash Americans to think they can govern themselves? We, the United Nations, have a better idea for how to govern America, and that's to redistribute America's wealth to the four corners of the globe, dumb down America's prosperity, and take away our freedoms. That's what it's about. And it's the biggest assault on American liberty we have ever seen in our lifetime. And right here today, folks, I'm warning you. You see this sticker? We printed them just for today. Agenda 21 is being funded right now from your electrical bills, from your utility bills, under a cap-and-trade program that is occurring right here in the state of New York, that has pumped almost $1 billion into funding the agenda of back to supporting the agenda of the radicals behind this initiative. You have an opportunity here today to begin to roll back this secret assault. We did it in New Jersey. We convinced Governor Christie to put an end to this program. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative Cap-and-Trade Energy Program is a total reiteration of what we stopped on the national level only a couple of years ago. And I believe it was cap-and-trade that initiated the Tea Party movement. There are several assaults. They want to take over our electricity and energy production through cap-and-trade. They want to control our health care. They want to take over and destroy Wall Street. You see that right now. We're at a point in our history, folks, where it's up to us whether or not we're going to fight back. And when you leave here today to take action and put an end to these initiatives before they continue. We have a lot of work ahead. It is not going to be easy. Neither was the Battle of Fort McHenry. Neither was the American Revolution. No one ever said it would be easy. Folks, when I opened up today, and I'm urging you to please join us in this activity to stop this before it's too late. But I opened up my presentation today with those opening words of the Declaration of Independence and how many believe to be the most important in the English language. I happen to believe it's the closing sentence of that great document that was the most important in the English language because, you know, Jefferson was a brilliant philosopher, political strategist, but he was also a great salesman. He knew that to make that American dream a reality, he had to convince 56 men to step up to a table, take a quill pen, and put it to a paper that was treason. And the penalty for them signing that document was to have their wives and children made slaves, to have their estates confiscated, and then to be drawn and quartered until almost dead and then hung. pretty brutal for signing that paper. So Jefferson had to lay out this big agenda. We hold these truths to be self-evident that appeal to all men. But he had to bring it down to those 56 people who would put their pen to paper. And he did it with the closing sentences of that great document. And I believe it's the sentence that sealed the fate for liberty in America. And it goes like this. With a profound reliance on divine providence, we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thank you, folks. Thank you for having me.